Well, hello and welcome. Thank you so much for chiming in to learn how to communicate like a leader. Before we get started, let's do a quick check to see if you're in the right place. Do any of these scenarios sound familiar to you? Are you getting cut off before you finish presenting an idea? Or maybe, and this is my favorite because it always stumps people when it happens, is number 2 here. Do you present an idea, but you're not getting heard? Instead, somebody else presents the same idea later in the meeting, and they get the applause for it. Or maybe number 3 applies to you. Are you all over the place when you communicate and you wonder how you can become more concise? If any of these things resonate with you, then you're in the right place. And I want to encourage you, if this resonates with you, you are not alone. I work with roughly 40 to 60 leaders every year, and they all share similar frustrations. This is a challenge that's not unique to you. I will share 4 frameworks in this short time frame that we have together. And as I'm sharing them with you, take a pen and paper if you haven't already, and jot down a message that you want to deliver, an idea that you want to share, or an idea in the past that you shared and it didn't go so well, and you want to introduce that idea again. And when I share these approaches with you, take my prompts and try to apply them directly to your message. All right. At the end of this, I will also share a link to a document with you that helps you plan your communication, not just for these 4 approaches that I share with you for verbal communication, but also when you communicate in writing. But before we get started, if we haven't met yet, I want to introduce myself. My name is Karina Hagen. I am a leadership coach, a business coach, and an author. So far, I have written 2 books on leadership. You'll find them on Bookboon. You see the QR codes here. And there's a 3rd book underway about high-stakes communication. This is my forte. I help leaders and teams to communicate more effectively, which leads us to the next point. How much communication as a skill matters to your effectiveness as a leader and to your career advancement. Every year, there are studies about what the number 1 or what the top skills are to have in today's world. And this year, it was confirmed again. It is still, you guessed it, communication. The majority of executives believe that in order to have good leadership skills, the number 1 skill you need to master is communication. Yet, the majority of employees, including those executives that you work with every day, believe that their leadership is not good in communication. So there's a gap we need to bridge here, and it impacts everything, not just your ability to get buy-in. It impacts how you can lead effectively, how you can mobilize teams, how you delegate, how you negotiate, how you resolve conflict. All of these things happen at work. But there's another point I want to mention here, which a lot of my clients, when they work with me, also have on the agenda at least once or twice during our coaching engagement, is developing their leadership brand, because they want to advance their careers either internally or externally. And in order to do that, they have to work on their brand. And how you communicate determines whether or not you get promoted or whether or not you get the job that you're vying for. So in the next few minutes, I will share 4 approaches with you. 2 are focused on presentations. 2 are focused on sharing ideas in ad hoc scenarios when you meet somebody in the hallway or you spontaneously share an idea during a meeting. But before we go there, at first, it's important that you know your audience. And I know very often when I tell leaders about this, they'll say, yeah, but I know the people in the room. I don't need to do this. And they want to skip the step and they regret it later. Because if you don't know who your audience is, you cannot cater your message to them. You will fail to address their needs and their challenges. So it's important that you don't just think about the names of the people in the room, but think about what are their goals for this year? What's top of mind for them? What are their worries? Where are they in position to the idea you are about to share? What would be their hesitations or their biggest pushbacks? Knowing all these things helps you not only to have a good comeback when you face objections, but it also helps you to tailor your message right out the gate to meet these needs. All right, before we continue, jot down who are the people that you are presenting your idea to, or who will be in the room, and how will your message matter to them? What's the impact for them? What's at risk for them when they hear that? What might be some objections, perhaps? Or how will you help them advance toward their goals with your idea? And here's the first approach. It's called, well, I call it the headline approach. And why I'm using that is because headlines are so powerful. If you open a newspaper or an online magazine, the first thing you do is what? You skim the page and you look for something interesting. And it's no different when you are in a meeting. Senior leaders or whoever you present to, we're all incredibly busy, but especially when you present to executive leadership. And what they do is they scan for information or they listen to identify what matters most. How is this important? We all do this. Executives just have a more trained ear in doing that. So take time to jot down the key messages of your message. What are those key takeaways? What are the key statements that they need to remember before they walk away from you? So you present, then you walk away, and what needs to be left behind? What are the things that they need to remember? So write down those key points, and that's how you start out. It will help you to spark intrigue because that's what headlines do. A good headline, sometimes they call it clickbait, which is not a good term. It's a negatively loaded term. But what it does is it hooks people in, it draws attention. So know your key takeaways and make that an attractive statement. It also helps your audience to remember important points, and it will help you to reduce waste because you're not overproducing slides. You produce slides that underline the message that you want to convey. And then the more complex your message is, the more you want to use something like the pyramid principle here to structure complex information into simple and logic communication that your audience can follow. What it does is it helps you to combat information overload, and it reduces complexity. Complexity sometimes is viewed as something positive. I don't know why somebody would view it as positive, but some people, when they are insecure about presenting, create long presentations and try to find an anchor by providing a lot of data points, thinking that that will make them look more competent. But it has the opposite effect. It will add confusion and detract from the points that are required to make a decision. So think about what's really required to make a decision and stick to those points. Instead of clarity, you will only create overwhelm. And when people are overwhelmed, they don't make a decision. So reduce complexity and use this to create structure. Now, you can use two formats here. You can go from challenge directly to the solution and then provide information to back it. Or on the right-hand side, you see there's the challenge, then the information to back how you will arrive at your solution. And at the end, you provide the actual solution that you propose should be taken or the decision that should be made. Now, take a minute and think about how the headlines that you just drew up, how they fit into this structure. Very often, when I do this with my clients, they realize I'm actually not having a logic flow. There are some gaps in my messages. They have the key statements, but they're, for example, very often missing the challenge, or they miss a supporting argument that is required in order to land at the solution in the end. All right, we're going to the next two. We're already halfway through. And now we're talking about how you present ideas on the fly when you meet somebody in the elevator or in the hallway, or you present during a meeting. And the first one here is mind mapping. It's surprising to me that so few people know this methodology because it's not new. I didn't invent it. It's quite old by now and so simple. How this works is you place your idea at the center of the page, and then you simply dump all your ideas as keywords around the center. And then you can use color coding to cluster your ideas, or you can do this by circling the main idea and create dotted lines to create subtopics. And what it does is it helps you sort through your thoughts before you present. And I give you an example of how this works. One of my clients has done this and it worked so well that he turned around a situation that made him feel somewhat devastated before into an absolute win. He was presenting to his skip level manager, and for some reason he just rambled. He had not really thought through the idea in a way that he could present it, but it was a good idea. However, the skip level manager gave his manager the feedback that this is not a way to present, that he didn't exert type of leadership, and he was passed over for promotion that year. We then worked together and I shared this approach with him. He applied it and he came back with such a great story. He said, I took it a level further. Not only did I jot down my idea, I waited till 2 or 3 people had already shared their ideas. And when it was time for me to speak up, I said, I would like to share an idea too. Now, so far, I have heard 2 great ideas that were shared. I believe we're missing 2 important points, and I want to share these and then share an additional idea. Everybody listened. He had structure. He had clarity about what he wanted to communicate. And I don't know if you noticed this, just by stating that they missed 2 important points, he created a little bit of FOMO, right? A little bit of intrigue, catering to our fear of missing out. And so using this mind map doesn't take a long time. All you do is take a piece of paper and you really just place all your random thoughts on paper, and then use connectors, use the pen to just connect the dots and sort through that. It's easier when you see things on paper to then say, oh, now I got my points. Now I know where I'm going. That creates a mental map that you can then use to articulate your idea. And the last one here is even shorter. And it's a method borrowed from interview preparation techniques. You might be familiar with STAR or SOAR or the CAR method. I prefer the CAR method because it's shorter, 1 letter less in the acronym keeps you even more concise, and it stands for challenge, action, and result. And what you do in an interview is you share how you have managed a similar challenge in the past, the action you took, and the result you achieved. Now you use that same method to share your idea. You share the challenge, you then come with the idea that you have, like here's the action I believe we should take, and here is the impact it will have, which is the result here. And within 60 seconds or so, you have articulated your idea concisely. Now, in the beginning, you might take longer to explain the challenge or the action or result, but the more you do it, the faster you'll get at it. Now, I promised you, we're already at the end, that I would give you a free resource. So the top QR code you see here leads you to a leadership communication planner. It is an editable PDF that includes everything I just talked about, plus some additional tools and tips. And if you want more, and if you're interested in keeping in touch with me, join the Shift. It's a leadership newsletter, or PM me on LinkedIn if you want to have direct contact with me. And the only thing I want to say in closing is you will not succeed by simply knowing this. Concise communication takes practice, it takes time. And you will not improve by just attending another seminar and just listening to little tidbits. In order to transform how you lead or transform how you communicate, you need to practice it. Information is not transformation. That would be easy, right? All the books you've read, think about it. You will be transformed into whoever you want it to be. Communication is a practice sport. It relies on consistency and on feedback loops. So here's what I urge you to do. As we part ways from here, take the next few minutes after this video and block some time on your calendar. How much time you block, that's up to you. You have to set the priorities. If you want to see significant improvement, I suggest that you block significant time so that you can practice and then find a way to establish a feedback loop. And that can take different forms. You could record yourself on video, which is not quite the same, but it's a start. You can ask your coworkers or friends to hold you accountable and to give you specific feedback, or you can work with a coach like me. Whatever it is, you have to get these feedback loops together with your practice time in order to transform your communication skills. And you will see in a short amount of time, if you stay at it, you'll transform. And that's my wish for you. I hope to hear from you soon. Keep in touch and have a great rest of the day.